Any idea what process costing is? Not to waste too much of our time. Um, Process costing provides a system of costing where any or all of these characteristics occur. Output is continually produced from the manufacturing process and is normally measured in total quantities such as tons or liters produced, or in very large quantities of small units such as number of cans or tin. In production process, materials might be added in full at the start of a process or might be added gradually through the process. The material are processed to produce the final output. In a process costing system, it is usual to distinguish between direct material conversion costs, which are direct labor cost, and product overhead. Now, in process costing, we are being told, please, can you guys hear me, please? Oh?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, in process costing, we are being told that here we'll be talking about the system of costing in which different characteristics occur during productions. Now, during productions, you normally will not just put every material you need inside. There's hardly what you just put in every material you need and it will bring out the desired output for you. No, there's actually there are usually ups and down. Maybe at the start of it, please let me put off my notification. I don't want this. Give me a minute, please. Okay, sorry about that. So at the start of it, maybe you put in a particular, you have series of materials in which you are using for the production of that final output you want to put out. Maybe it's at the beginning, you put in 2 kg of a particular material. Maybe an hour later, you put in another material, you put in 1 kg again. Towards the end, after you have finished doing it, that's when you add the final material again. There are series of steps in which manufacturing is being done. So usually there are practically aspects in which you put in material and you just get your output. But here we're talking about those steps in which along the line they are usually ups and down in production. Now, in the production process, material might be added in full or at the start of a process, or might be added gradually throughout the process. Materials are processed to produce the final output. We're adding at the beginning, we're adding at the ending, we're adding in the middle. We just need the final output. Everybody is desiring the final output. In a process costing system, it is usual to distinguish between direct material conversion costs, which are direct labor and production overhead. Now, we'll be talking about situations where process costing might be appropriate. Process costing is used when the output produced in a continuous process system and it's difficult to separate individual units of output. Example of manufacturing where process costing is used are chemical manufacturing, manufacturing of liquids, and the continuous manufacturing and high volume of low cost food items. Now, let's take for example manufacturing of liquids. Who has an idea about how soap is being made, liquid soap is being made? As far as I can tell, liquid soap, you are putting like 3 or 4 ingredients. I can't tell how what ingredients they are putting, but I've seen where it is being done actually. They are putting 3 or 4 ingredients. There is one you start at the beginning. You bring in two things together. You stir it. When it is thick, or you leave it for a little while, then you now add something else. I don't know about the ingredients, but I just know that's how they do liquid soap. So along the line you are making use of two or three different material, there is a process in which that liquid soap is being done. There is a continuous process in which that liquid soap is being done. There is difference in materials that are used to produce that liquid soap. Now moving on, process costing. Okay, process costing can be quite tricky at first. I don't need to. This is just debit and credit of accounting, inputting accounting transaction or process costing. Now consider the following: process costing. Now the debit side says what? What is the debit side of this of an account telling us, of a ledger telling us? Input or output? Debit side, accountant, input or output? Samuel,
Input.
input. Thank you.
Hello, I can't hear anything now. I think your mic is muted.
Zainab, Fumi, Samuel, can you guys hear me at all?
I
You
just
I
hear
muted
you
can
now.
hear
Your
you
yourself
mic
now.
earlier.
was muted before.
No, you muted himself earlier.
Sorry about that, please. On the debit side of this account, what do we have there? How many units of this material are we using for this particular production?
Unit is 100.
Red.
100 units. And they're telling us 100 units cost 1,000 naira. Meaning how much is a unit? How much is a unit?
You divide 1,000 by
10
100.
naira is a unit. Abi?
10 naira.
10
Yes.
naira
Yeah.
is 1 unit. And we are using 100 units for the production of this particular, whatever we are producing here. 100 materials, 100 units of materials for the production. Now we have conversion costs. during conversion of the raw materials to finished goods, we happen to incur the amount of 500 naira, making how much in total we used for production. Making how much in total did we use for production?
1,005.
1,500 naira. 1,000 in material, 1,000 for conversion cost. On the output side, you can see we made 100 units of this particular item, costing us 1,500 naira. This is very straightforward. The total cost input to the process are 1,005. This represents 100 units of raw material at 1,000. And the cost of work that has been carried out on raw material, this costs 500. So the total cost inputs are 1,005. 100 units has transferred out of the process, and this must have cost 1,500 naira. Now, this is a very simple workings. We use 100 units. 100 units initially cost us 10 naira each. 10 naira each, making 1,000 naira is what we incur on the material. But along the line, we made a conversion of 500 naira. It cost us 500 naira to convert, making the whole amount we incurred during the production how much? Making the whole amount we incurred during production how much? 1,500 naira. Now we'll be saying
1,500.
and we said we are making 100 units, 100 units, 100 outputs, 100 units of output. That means if we incurred 1,500 naira on 100 units of output, that means a particular unit at the end of production cost 150 naira for us to produce. Sorry, cost 15 naira for us to produce. Am I right?
Yes.
Please, did you get that?
Yes. Yes.
Now let's move on. This is another process account. Let's deal with something that is more complicated. Now, 100 units were produced as usual. Are we good? Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
100
Yes.
units were produced as usual. And we have what? How much for conversion?
500.
500 for conversion. That means we are spending 1,500 on production of this particular item. Abi? But on the
Yes.
output side, you can see that 90 units came out. Meanwhile, they are telling us that we lost 10 units during production.
Mm-hmm.
We lost 10 units during production, and output that we were able to, after production, all we were able to gather that, okay, this is what we can sell, this is what we made, is 90 units. 90 units that we made plus the 10 units of production. Everything is normally supposed to amount to 100 units, but we lost 10 units during production. We still have the cost in which we incur of 1,500 naira on this particular unit of production. The input costs are still the same, but now there are two lines on the credit side of the account to which we should allocate costs: the good output and the loss. A decision needs to be made. Should some of the costs relate to the loss, or should all of it relate to the good output? The answer to this question depends on whether the loss is considered to be normal or abnormal. This will be explained shortly. Now, during production now, you initially are going to use 1,500 naira to make 100 units. Please, are you with me?
Yeah, go on.
To make 100 units. But at the end of the day, after production, you notice that all you could get out of it is 90 units, and you have a loss of 10 units. But you know that your amount that you incurred on production is still 1,500 naira. The initial one, when we didn't have a loss, that means it was costing us 15 naira for 1 unit of production. But now when we have a loss, we still incur that 1,500 naira. But instead of getting 100 units, we are getting 90 units. The decision is on the company now. The loss, is it a normal loss or abnormal loss? We have what we call normal loss, we have what we call abnormal loss. A normal loss is that loss that no matter what you do is bound to happen. I think we should explain it along the line. It's bound to happen. It will happen. you do everything right in the production process, it will still happen, a normal loss. But an abnormal loss is one in which you are doing something wrong. That's what came across that particular abnormal loss. It's not meant to happen, but it happened along the line. Do you get me? So it's now on to the company if you should spread this 1,500 naira on the 90 units that you were being able to produce, or you account for the loss. Please, do you get that?
Mm.
Please, who doesn't understand me?
Yeah. Go on. Go on.
Zainab, you have been quiet so far.
I understand.
Okay. Now, process accounts. Let's deal with what we have, closing work in progress. Now, this is another account. We are still dealing with 100 units. Under these 100 units, we are still talking about using 1,000 units cost, 100 units cost 1,000 naira. Now, we still have the conversion rate, 1,500. We still have the conversion rate, 1,500. Please, give me 20 seconds, please. Let me quickly. So we still have 100 materials we are using. We are using 100 units of material we are using here, costing 10 naira each, which is 1,000 in total, and we still have our conversion rates as usual. Now they are still telling us that the former one we did, we had a loss of 10 units. But now they're telling us that output is 90. What we're able to produce is 90. And now they're telling us that our closing work in progress is 10. Somebody should tell me, what does it mean? Work in progress, what does it mean? Work in progress, somebody should define it for me. Tell me what you know.
It is the process of converting raw materials into finished goods. It is those goods that are between raw materials and finished goods.
They are neither raw material or finished goods. They are still in process. It's
Yeah.
still under processing. Now, Fumi or Zainab, somebody should tell me, what does closing work in progress mean? What does closing work in progress mean? Fumi, Zainab. Samuel, help
Completing
them out.
tasks or
Okay,
project.
I'm listening. Zainab.
Completing tasks of or project.
No, you are not giving me what I
Something that
want.
were previously unfinished.
No,
Internet phone.
that's not what I want. Samuel, can you help out?
Yeah, they are the total number of unfinished goods after production, total number of unfinished goods.
When you're talking about closing work in progress, that means at the end of closing this account, at the point of closing this account, maybe at the end of that financial year or at the end of that period, though, the work in progress, the processed work that is being unfinished amounts to 10 naira, amounts to 10 units at that particular point in time. Do you get me? At the end of that financial year or at the end of that period, work in progress, unfinished goods, processing goods at that particular point in time amounts to 10 units. That is what closing work in progress actually means. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Do you guys get that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so we are being told now there is no loss. There is no loss. But we made an output of 90. That means the remaining 10 is not as if we lost it though. But it is still a work in progress. It has not finished. It's not yet a finished goods. Again, the input costs are still the same. But now there are two types of output from the process: the good output and the closing work in progress. Let's move on. Processing account, opening work in progress. Now, the former account now, we had a closing work in progress, Abi.
Yeah.
Now, we have a opening work in progress. That means at the end of last year, at the end of last period, our last accounting year, we had work in progress, 10 units that we have not finished. But we had to close that accounting year. We had to finish our books. We had to close our accounts that last year, Abi.
Yeah.
Now, this new period, when you have a closing balance, it's definitely an opening balance for the next period, Abi. Now, this is a new period now. We had a closing balance last year of 10 units. Now, this year, it is an opening balance for us. It is 10 units, and we mentioned 10 naira is per unit. Since it's not yet finished goods, cost of production is 10 naira per unit now. Cost of material 10 naira per unit, Abi. That's why we have 100 naira here. Now the material here, we still have 100 units of material as usual. Amounting to how much? Amounting to how much?
110 units.
1,000. 100 units of material amounting to 1,000 naira now. I'm not
Okay,
saying
I was
total.
talking with total
Yeah,
material.
100 units of material. And then the usual conversion cost of 500 naira. Now our total material is 110 because we had 10 material left as our last period. We had 10 work in progress left as our last period. And this is a new period in which we got materials of 100 units again, making our total material how much? 110.
Okay.
Now, 110 units now will now be giving us how much? 1,600 because our opening work in progress is 100 naira. Our normal material is 1,000. With our conversion cost of 500 naira, we need to account for all three. Now, our output. Now, they are telling us that output for this period is not 100 units, it's not 110. We are normally supposed to do our output. Now, if we did everything right, all things being equal, our output is supposed to be 110 because our input was 110, right? Input of material was 110 in units. Now, if we did everything, our output is supposed to be 110. But now they're telling us that our output is 95 units. 95 units. The remaining 15 units now, they are telling us that is under closing work in progress. That means for that period again, we were unable to finish 15 units into finished goods. Please, did you get the scenario? Please, who doesn't get the scenario? For me.
Yes, sir, I get it, sir. But
Is it
yes, sir,
okay?
I get it, sir. But the output, are we to determine the output or it will be given?
It will be given in the question. They will give you so amount was accounted for as the output, or they give you a percentage of total units. If your input is 100 naira, 100 units, and they tell you 90% was of good quality output, and the remaining 10% is normal loss, abnormal loss, you're supposed to understand like that 90 units was the output, and the remaining is loss. Do you get that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the opening work in progress is a cost that was input in the previous period. I explained this earlier. We still face the same basic problem. The total cost on the debit side have to be allocated to the output. However, the existence of opening work in progress means that we must have a policy for dealing. Now we'll be talking about normal loss. Normal loss. A feature of process manufacturing is that there is often some loss or wastage in production. I explained earlier that no matter how well you do it, one way or the other, there will be a loss. You can't put in 1,000 units. It depends on machine though. But here they're telling us that you can't put in 1,000 units of material and expect that same 1,000 units to come out as output. There's usually a normal loss during the process of manufacturing. There is often some loss or wastage in the production and output quantities. And output quantities are less than input quantities of material. Definitely, when you input 100 units and there's a normal loss or abnormal loss, one way or the other, what the output will later be will be lesser than the input. Did you get that? Since there's a loss, your output will be lesser than the input. You cannot get exactly what you're putting into the machine since there is a loss. Losses might be normal or abnormal. Normal loss is expected loss in processing. Now, this process account, please, are you saying this clearly? Okay, we have done this before. We have done this before. We are talking about the normal loss and all. Now, normal loss with recovery value. In some cases, losses in a process has scrap value. What is scrap value? Zainab, scrap value. Zainab, scrap value. Zainab. For me, Samuel, scrap value.
Blue scrap value is the value of those waste, those those waste product amounted to loss.
Okay. For me, any idea? For me, any idea?
No
Scrap
idea.
value. Okay. Scrap value is the worth of anything at the end of its useful life. You call it scrap value because it's no longer in use. It's a loss. It's no longer in use. You don't need it. But as far as you don't need it still has a worth. You still can sell it. There's an amount attached to it. Do you get me? The amount you can sell it at that particular point in time, the amount you can sell a waste or something you don't need at that particular point in time is a scrap value. Do you get me? Scrap value. Simple as ABC. Now, where was I? The normal loss quantity might not be physical. The normal loss quantity might not be physical loss, but it's changed in some way so that this is not the same as good output. For example, there might be some kind of chemical separation with a substance scrapped off the top of the liquid in process, and whatever is scrapped off might still have a scrap value. We're still talking about scrap value here. Now, the cost of good output. There's a formula for the cost of good output under process costing. Cost of good output per unit is total processing cost minus scrap value loss divided by expected unit of output. For you to get the total amount of good output, now I imputed 100 units of item into a machine. And at the end of the day, the machine is giving me 90 units. That means I have a loss of what? 10 units. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a loss of 10 units. Now, I want to calculate how much is the cost of good output per unit now. All I need to do is the total processing cost. How much did I incur in processing that